What's going on, everyone? By now, unless you've been hiding under a rock, you are aware that Damian Lillard and the Miami Heat are trying to work it out, right? Portland, they're going back and forth with Miami. Miami's wants Damian Lillard. And if they end up landing Damian Lillard, they will be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. They were just the team to make it out of the East and go in the NBA Finals. And they had quite the road, right? They beat the Milwaukee Bucks, they beat the Knicks, and then they end up beating the Boston Celtics. They beat the top two teams in the Eastern Conference and the two teams that many believed were basically a lock to come out of the East. This was a team that was a play-in team and really just kind of shocked and surprised everybody and were able to pull it through. If that team ends up landing Damian Lillard, watch out, right? That would be the perfect complement. And that would really kind of put Miami back into that contention conversation, because the one thing that they are lacking is that go-to scorer, that go-to closer, a guy who can consistently go and get you 30 plus a night, and Dame would fit that beautifully. All of Dame's flaws are Miami strengths, and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo's strengths as well. The guys that do the dirty work, that do the hard work, and are willing to get it done on the defensive end. Jimmy Butler, he's willing to do whatever it takes to win. Same thing with Bam, right? Miami, with their culture, with their coaching, with Jimmy, with Bam, and then to have Damian Lillard, that would be a tough team to beat. But what if they don't get Damian Lillard, right? Can Miami really replicate what they did last year? Is Miami worthy of being in the conversation again? Now, many could argue yes, right? And look, I think Miami took some hits, right? Losing Strus, losing Vincent. They lost some key pieces. They lost some key players, but they did bring some guys in like Richardson, stuff like that. So, let's say it's a wash. Can they be one of the top teams come the end of the season and the playoffs? Now, I don't think Miami is finishing a top 3 team or something like that in the Eastern Conference without Dame. If they get Dame, then yeah. But again, this is assuming they don't get Dame. Like right now, the roster that Miami has, I don't see them being a top 3 or 4 seed. That doesn't mean that they can't be a top 3 team, because they're not going to care about seeding, just as we saw last year, right? They don't care whether they're the 8th seed and in the play-in and have to grind through the play-in to make the playoffs, or they're the 1 seed. They don't care. As long as they can get into the playoffs and they believe that they have a real shot to win the thing, right? And I look at the Eastern Conference, nobody really improved, right? Like, what team in the Eastern Conference really made a major splash? What team in the Eastern Conference you look at and go, man, those were some great pickups, right? Like, Milwaukee basically brought everybody back. Boston, yeah, they brought in Porzingis, and that may or may not make them better. I kind of question it, because Porzingis definitely helps. And Porzingis, I think, will be a solid piece for Boston. But I don't think it really solved a lot of Boston's biggest problems. And I think the loss of Marcus Smart is going to hurt Boston a lot more than they realize. Because Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown haven't really been leaders. And they still aren't going to solve their predictability issues and their lack of mental toughness. And Porzingis, can he stay healthy? And he's not going to be a leader. He's not going to be a locker room, vocal guy. Like, I don't know. I think that they lost a lot of their toughness and they lost a lot of just their leadership, right? Joe Mazzulla, how much is he going to be able to really get out of these guys? But the Celtics are without a doubt a great team. And Milwaukee and the Celtics definitely are probably the 2 top teams again in the Eastern Conference. And look, if Giannis doesn't get hurt, I think Miami's a first round exit. I really do. Boston was the better team than Miami. Miami just had the better and more mental toughness, right? Like when things got tough, Miami just stuck with it and they were able to pull it out. Boston just crumbles. And that's been Boston's biggest issue. It's been their biggest concern, which is why I just don't really believe in Boston. I just don't think they have the mental fortitude to get through the grueling playoffs and then win an NBA championship. Maybe eventually they get there, but I just still don't think they're there. It's one of those things like I can't believe in you until you prove me wrong, right? And every time I think like, oh no, they have a real shot, boom, they drop the bag once again. Milwaukee is more than capable, but Milwaukee's kind of old, right? Like older, right? And there's Middleton, he's had injury issues. Giannis, does he get like? I don't know. It's just no one would be surprised if Boston or Milwaukee won the championship this year. Nobody would, and it's once again very likely one of these two teams come out of the East. But beyond that, like, who is Miami really worried about? Like the Knicks? I think the Knicks might be a little better this year just because they'll have another full year under it, chemistry built, stuff like that. They do have a treasure trove of assets and stuff, so you could see them making a big splash or a big push at some point. So maybe the Cavs, maybe they could give them a little bit of a run. I'm not like super sold on the Cavs again. Like I think the Cavs are like a good 3 years away, 2 years away. But again, like it's kind of the same thing as last year. Nobody in the West or in the Eastern Conference really made huge strides to where you're looking at it and going, man, like I don't know how Miami beats that team. But I don't think Miami is that good to where they can just run through everybody, right? Like, again, if Milwaukee doesn't get hurt, I don't know. I don't believe Miami beats them. Like, Miami beating Milwaukee, I think, did a world of benefit for Miami. Because they lost the play-in game, ended up pulling it out, play Milwaukee. They should have been dead in the water. But they beat Milwaukee, and it made them believe, right? And it became a momentum builder. And that is very valuable in sports. We have seen what momentum and just getting hot at the right time and whatnot be like what it can mean for a team. And they rode that high and they rode that momentum into the Knicks series. They beat the Knicks, and then they rode that into the Celtics, and then you saw that high start to come down a little bit, and all of a sudden, Boston down 3-0, force a Game 7, and you're like, uh-oh, like, are they really going to pull this off? And many people thought they were going to. And then they run into Denver, who they didn't have any injuries. They didn't have any problems. There were no questions, which is why I think Miami loses to Milwaukee. Because I think Milwaukee, with fully healthy, would have ran through Miami just like we saw with Denver. So I don't think that they're more talented than half the teams in the East, right? Like I think the Sixers have a more talented front-loaded roster. Celtics, the Bucks. You can make an argument for the Knicks and the Cavs and stuff, but it's just Miami, the coaching and the type of players that they have and the culture and just like having Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo who are very unselfish. Like you can never count Miami out. But I don't know. It's just I didn't think Miami was very good last year. Anyway, and I mean, to be fair, they weren't. I mean, they won 44 games and were the 8th seed, which, okay, and then, again, without injuries, they probably were a first-round exit. So, my point is, I didn't think that they were as good as the previous year, right, where they went to the conference final. Like, I was like, they're probably a play-in team, and they were. Like, I was right about Miami going into the season. I just was wrong about when they got to the playoffs. I thought they would be a first-round exit. they would have been if Giannis didn't go down. But he did. And that's basketball. That's how sports works, period, right? Every year, somebody benefits one way or another. I mean, all of Golden State's championships, somebody got hurt, right, along the way. It's part of the game, right? You get a break, you get something, you get a thing to drop or two, and then all of a sudden it's, all right, like, now we're in the finals, now we won, congrats. It's how it goes. So, Miami's job is to beat the team in front of you, whoever it is. So you can't blame Miami for that. But I don't think Miami is like this great team, right? Like, I get they've been to the finals and then the Eastern Conference finals like every year the last like handful of years, or every other year the last handful of years. But teams are better, right? Like, the Knicks are better. The Cavs are better. The Nets have a lot of potential, and they have a lot of pieces that are very desirable and could easily make a move or two to all of a sudden be a contending team, right? The Sixers, the Celtics, the Bucks, like, you have teams that are outside of the Celtics and the Bucks. Everyone else is kind of clumped, right? And it's just kind of like who performs in the moment when it matters. It's kind of how it feels, right? Like, who can deliver in the moments that matter. But I think that there's also this like thought process of like Miami can get it done. And I just don't think that they're talented enough as a whole. Like, I don't think that they win an NBA championship without going and getting a Damian Lillard or something like that. I just don't. Right? And like, look, maybe I eat my words. Maybe they win the championship this year. I think we've seen they're good enough to surprise the team. They're a tough out. You're not just gonna walk all over them, right? They're hard nosed. They're a tough beat. You have to actually beat Miami. But I think that their success also kind of clouds what the reality is for their roster and for this team. And I wouldn't be sure. It's really hard to gauge it. Like, they could be in the Eastern Conference Finals again, or they could be a play-in team that loses and they don't even make the playoffs this year. I think it could go either way. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think of Miami? Do you think that they're a contending team? You got to put them up there. Do you think no? How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments.